For a while, I've been thinking about shifting the nature of my podcasts. And I think today is the day that shift will be realized. And in the past, as some of you know, I've been working on meditation, contemplation, and reflection as part of a way to sort of begin to express my findings with regards to the work that I've been doing. But lately, I've also had the idea that I need to be more personal. And so I came upon the idea of doing a blog as a kind of replacement for the meditation and contemplation work that I was doing. And the vlog is a little bit more personal because it's about my nutrition program and what I've found with regards to how I eat and how I nourish myself. And the impetus for this is that I had a drama with regards to my food. I was doing really well, and you can see from the photograph, even for an old guy, I was 75 in this photograph. I was doing pretty good. I was in shape and, kind of prospering and doing okay. And then I began to get a little more, I wanted to push myself and do a little bit better and increase my intensity and the joy of that, because it really is a joyful thing. But I went overboard on it. And I went overboard because I began to see my food as an extension of me as a personality. So there's a little bit of vanity there. And so I began a fasting program on top of my diet. And so I was doing a 8-16 fast. In other words, I was eating over the course of 8 hours and then fasting for 16. And it was a catastrophe because what happened is my system shut down. I wasn't getting enough food over the course of a day to kind of keep things going. And as a result, combined with some of the side effects of my meds, so I have a little bit of high blood pressure and, just the stuff of being old. But one of the meds boosted purines. And so I ended up with a wicked case of gout. Not only once, but twice, which is very painful. And it's a opportunity to say a lot of bad words because it's very painful. But it gave me pause because it was a big message that I wasn't doing things the right way. Just wasn't doing it. I was personalizing it. And as some of you know from my talking, that personalizing things often can be a real trap because personality is not the place you really want to go. Well, where you really want to go is you want to go to your connection with the divine hierarchy and you want to set down personality. But I was a little delusional with regards to my own motivations, and I got personally connected with my diet. And it was, as I said, it was a really bad thing. So I'm on the other side of that. I've had to rethink my food and rethink what I'm doing. And I realized that one of the keys that I've spoken about is beauty. And I realized that it's important to understand food as a beautiful thing. It is very beautiful. And it is an exercise of eating, which is a direct connection to creation and the divine hierarchy. And how I handle that food is a really big issue. So I began to see that my food was sort of a feasting, a daily feast. And the most important thing about the feasting diet, I guess you would call it, is having a view of food that is beautiful. Food is a very beautiful thing. And if I look at food in the context of my connection to the divine hierarchy and my obedience to my calling, I really see food in a very different way. If I get a little vain and I start introducing personality to it, all of a sudden there becomes kind of a war almost between my body and my connection to the divine hierarchy. So I was pushing through my personality. It was a personality push. I've learned to set that down, to say, no, I'm not going to do it that way. So I had to kind of stop everything for a little while and refocus. Not to mention, I gained 6 pounds, which I didn't like. I don't like. And so it's a rethinking of food as a very beautiful thing. And it is a daily feast that I see each day, not as a daily labor or a constriction or a compulsion with regards to nutrient and food. It is a feasting, it is seeing food as a beautiful thing and eating what I want to eat until I feel I've reached the point of maximum nourishment given the calling that I have in my life. How much nourishment do I need for the calling that I've been given? And when I get to a point where I'm fully nourished, why would I keep eating? That is the pinch point. So my meditation has really shifted around the idea, understanding when it is I've received enough from the divine, and when it is it's time to give back, and giving back in the context of my personal energy required to meet the demand of my calling. It's a very, very subtle thing. And I'm reminded of, kind of some many, many stories of our ancient forefathers and mothers who tried to develop medicines. How did they do that? How did they develop the very sophisticated medical practices that they had, even as what we consider to be primitive people? So what they did was, as best I can understand, because there are still some tribal communities which practice in this very way, is they would take a little bit of whatever it was they were trying to work with, and they would ingest it. And that ingestion produced an experience. How did their body respond to whatever it was they just ate? And usually in very small quantities. You don't want to eat a load of stuff and then you're really in trouble because you can't control anything. So with that little bit of sample, they were able to understand, well, how did this food work with my body? What was I being told? It's not unusual to see in the Aboriginal art of Australia that, in fact, some of the art reflects what it is that is the form of our DNA, the double helix. And it's an old thing. I mean, it's been around for 50 years, so it's not some new revelation. But it's a stunning revelation, and it left an impact on me that here were these primitive people who were able to, in a way, see inside themselves. They were able to see how the food that they were eating affected them physically, and they were able to come with an image which was associated with that. What a stunning thing. And so that's how I see my daily engagement with food, is to begin to see, well, what effect does this food have on who I am? So what I mean is I can eat the finest and most beautiful foods, but I have to pay attention to how that food is affecting me and how it relates to my ability to answer my call. So if I engorge myself, I satiate myself, I indulge my personality in the food, I'm less able to hear my call because I'm sated. I am full and bloated and slowed down. And I don't think that's a really good thing. So that's been my mission, my meditation, is to begin to see and pay attention to how does the food that I'm eating affect my body. And I think it's really possible to get very accurate with regards to this. Because as I've said before, our experience is exact. There are no metaphors here that make any sense. There are no analogies that make any sense. What does make sense is a very clear understanding of what is happening to us. Now, it may take a little time to, sort of burnish the results. But what happens is that you can. So my meditations on my own angel experience have changed a lot since I began to have those experiences. And they've expanded. And my understanding of who I am with regards to that connection to the divine hierarchy has continued to expand in ways that I find delightful and beautiful. You know, when the world stops being beautiful, I think civilizations die. There's no reason to be around. I mean, if you think about some of the great civilizations and how they started out and, how they saw themselves, well, certainly you can see that they were no longer beautiful. You can see it with Rome. I think Rome had an aspiration there, but it lost its way, and it devolved into an economy of slaves. And you can see many other societies, even modern ones, that ceased to be beautiful. They started out with a very powerful idea, a powerful image, which was very compelling, a seduction. But after the seduction wore off, it was quickly realized there was no beauty. There was no connection to the divine, and those societies and civilizations simply collapsed because there was no psychic power that came from the divine which would hold them together, which would push them forward, engage them in the expansion of the cosmos. It couldn't happen given what they were doing. And so I see myself as, expanding and keeping my eye and my heart open and my emotions open to beauty, which is sometimes more difficult than you would think, because confrontations with beauty can be terrifying, absolutely terrifying, because they hold a light to our emotional content in ways that we are unprepared for sometimes, particularly if we've been immersed in personality and all of a sudden you're confronted by beauty. Oh my gosh. Some people will kick beauty to the curb to continue to engage and indulge their personality. But I've decided I don't want to do that. I'd rather set my personality down and engage with beauty in the context of everything I can think of, to include my food. And there is in that food an incredible psychic power and energy. So think about what is locked up in a grain of wheat. Think about the psychic energy that's in that. So when we prepare that in a proper way, that is released in us and allows us to push forward with renewed energy and renewed connection. And that comes from the psychic connection between who we are and the fruits of the earth. So there's a direct connection to that. And that is a very, very beautiful thing, because it is that beauty which is the force that expands the cosmos. And without it, things die. They go away. So all these, quote, dead planets, well, what happened to them? Well, sometimes it was just the fact of the universe. But there's also a kind of an idea of that these civilizations that existed on these planets were no longer beautiful. And their collapse was just a collapse of personality that devolved into the density. It was not able to rise into the divine hierarchy. They were not able to really, truly find their calling. They set their calling down instead of setting down their personality. So that's the work I'm doing. I'm going to continue to do these little vlogs, and hopefully I can refine them so that they a little bit more put together. And I'll keep you posted, because it's, I think, a wonderful work. And I would love to hear from you. Please write. Amen.